Admiral Chenwei stood on the bridge of the battleship Dawn of Terra and watched the Valorian homeworld burn, not from human weapons, from the Ravager swarm that had been eating its way through the outer colonies for 3 months. The Valorians were the richest species in the Galactic Council. Their world was covered in crystal towers and floating cities. Their people wore clothes made from materials that cost more than entire human starships. They had never known war. They had never needed to fight. That was why they had called for help, Admiral, said Commander Torres from his station. The swarm fleet is moving to intercept us. 40,000 bioships. Maybe more. Chen nodded slowly. 40,000 swarm bioships against her fleet of 800 human warships. The math was bad. The math was always bad when fighting the swarm. The Council promised us reinforcements, she said. What is the status of the Allied fleet? Torres checked his screens. His face told Chen everything she needed to know before he spoke. The Valorian home fleet is holding position behind their moon. The Kreth sent 50 ships, but they stopped at the edge of the system. The Council says they are waiting for a strategic opportunity. Chen felt the familiar cold anger in her chest. She had felt it many times in her 30 years of service to Earth's Navy. The Galactic Council had welcomed humanity 50 years ago. They had smiled and called humans their friends. They had gladly accepted human soldiers to fight their wars and human workers to build their stations. But when humans needed help, the Council always found reasons to wait. The swarm will reach Valoria Prime in 6 hours. Torres said, if we do not engage now, the planet will fall. Chen looked at the tactical display. 800 human ships, 40,000 swarm bioships, and behind her, the home fleet of the richest species in the galaxy, hiding behind a moon while their people screamed for salvation. All ships. Chen said into the fleet channel, this is Admiral Chen. The Council forces have chosen not to join us. We will engage the swarm alone. Earth expects every sailor to do their duty. For humanity, the channel filled with responses. For humanity, 800 ships, 300,000 human souls, all ready to die for a species that would not fight for itself. The battle lasted 9 hours. Human ships were not the fastest or the most advanced, but they were tough. They were built by people who had survived ice ages and plagues and world wars. Every human vessel was designed to take damage and keep fighting. The swarm learned this the hard way. Chen lost 200 ships in the first wave. The bioships came in clouds, spitting acid and launching living missiles that burrowed into hulls. Human point defense guns fired until their barrels melted. When the guns failed, crews put on suits and went outside to fight with hand weapons. The Valorians watched from behind their moon. They sent messages of encouragement that by the 5th hour, Chen had lost 400 ships. Half her fleet was gone, but the swarm had lost more. Human weapons tore through bioships by the thousands. Nuclear missiles created new suns in the darkness of space. Railgun rounds punched through swarm carriers and out the other side. Admiral, Torres said. His voice was tired. Blood ran down his face from a cut on his forehead. The swarm is breaking. They are retreating to regroup. Chen saw it on the display. The bioships were pulling back, their coordination failing. The swarm was not truly intelligent. It operated on instinct, and its instincts were telling it that these small human ships were too dangerous to fight directly. All ships, pursue, Chen ordered. Do not let them regroup. Finish this. The remaining 400 human ships chased the broken swarm fleet for 3 more hours. They hunted down every bioship they could find. They burned the living vessels until nothing remained but ash and frozen meat drifting in the void. When it was over, Chen sat in her command chair and looked at the butcher's bill. 412 ships destroyed. 63,000 human sailors dead. The largest single battle loss in Earth's history. But Valoria Prime was safe. The crystal towers still stood. The floating cities still floated. 12 billion Valorians were alive because 63,000 humans had died for them. The Council sent their congratulations. The High Speaker, a Valorian named Prelate Voss, appeared on Chen's screen with tears in his eyes. Admiral Chen, he said, the Valorian people will never forget this sacrifice. Humanity has proven itself a true friend to the Council. We are forever in your debt. Chen nodded. She was too tired for diplomacy. We need to discuss reinforcements for Earth's colonies. The swarm splinter fleets are moving toward the Kepler systems. 18 million humans live there. We need the Council fleet to— Yes, Voss said quickly. We will discuss this at the next Council session. For now, rest. You have earned it. The connection ended. Chen stared at the blank screen for a long moment. Then she turned to Torres. How long until we can reach the Kepler colonies at maximum speed? Torres ran the calculations. 3 weeks, Admiral. But the ships need repairs. We lost half our fleet. We need— How long until the swarm splinter fleets reach Kepler? Torres went quiet. He checked the data again, hoping he had made a mistake. He had not. 10 days, Admiral. Chen closed her eyes. 10 days. The swarm would reach 18 million human colonists in 10 days. Her fleet was 3 weeks away, and the Council fleet was right here, fresh and undamaged, hiding behind a moon. Get me the Council chamber, she said. The session took for hours. Chen stood before the holographic images of 12 Council species, explaining the situation. The swarm splinter fleets, the Kepler colonies, 18 million lives. She asked for help. She begged for help. She reminded them of the 63,000 humans who had just died to save Valoria. The Council voted. Prelate Voss spoke for all of them. His voice was calm and reasonable. The Council has decided that the Kepler colonies are not strategically significant enough to justify deploying our forces. The human colonies are too far from established trade routes. The cost of defending them would outweigh the economic benefit. Chen could not speak for a moment. She stared at Voss, trying to understand what she was hearing. You are talking about 18 million people, she finally said. Men, women, children, families. We understand this is difficult, Voss said. But the Council must consider the greater good. We cannot risk our fleets for a few remote colonies. I am sure you understand. I just lost 63,000 sailors saving your homeworld. Voss smiled sadly. And we are grateful. But gratitude cannot dictate strategic policy. The vote has been taken. The matter is closed. Chen looked at the 12 faces watching her. Valorians, Kreth, Moldari, Sineth, species that had smiled and called humanity their friends for 50 years. Species that had welcomed human soldiers to die in their wars, that not one of them spoke in her defense. We will remember this, Chen said quietly. She ended the connection and began the long journey home. Her fleet arrived at the Kepler system 2 weeks after the swarm. They found 3 dead worlds. The colonies had been eaten. Every building, every vehicle, every blade of grass. The swarm consumed everything organic. 18 million humans had lived on those worlds. Farmers, teachers, children just learning to walk, old people who had retired to watch the alien sunsets. The swarm left nothing but bones. Chen walked through the ruins of New Helsinki, the largest city on Kepler 3. The streets were empty. The buildings stood silent. In the central square, she found a school. The small desks were still arranged in neat rows. Drawings hung on the walls. Pictures of families. Pictures of starships. Pictures of children dreaming about the future. Torres found her there. He stood beside her in silence for a long time. Admiral, he finally said, Earth Command is asking for your report. Chen picked up one of the drawings. A child had drawn their family. To parents, 3 children, a dog. Under the picture, in shaky handwriting, the child had written, My family loves me. Tell them what happened, Chen said. Tell them the Council voted to let our people die. Tell them we asked for help and they said no. Tell them we saved 12 billion Valorians and they would not save 18 million of us. What else should I tell them? Chen carefully folded the drawing and put it in her pocket. She would keep it forever. She would never forget. Tell them we need to go home, she said. We have work to do. The fleet left the Kepler system the next day. They passed through Council space on their way back to Earth. Valorian ships waved at them in greeting. Kreth stations sent messages of friendship. The Council species went about their lives as if nothing had happened. They did not understand what they had done. In the old days on Earth, there was a saying, do not wake a sleeping giant. Humanity had tried to be good members of the galactic community. They had fought and died for species that would not fight for themselves. They had believed that loyalty would be returned with loyalty. They had been wrong. As the fleet approached Earth, Admiral Chen received a message from the President of the United Earth Government. It was short, "Come home. We have much to discuss." Chen read the message and smiled for the first time in weeks. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who has made a difficult decision and is ready to act. The Council thought humanity was weak. They thought humans were emotional creatures who could be used and discarded. They thought they could vote away 18 million lives and face no consequences. The first sign that something had changed was the silence. For 50 years, human diplomats had attended every council session. Human trade ships had visited every major port in the galaxy. Human workers had built stations and repaired engines and done the hard labor that other species found beneath them. Then, one day, it all stopped. Ambassador Saro Okonkwo, Earth's representative to the Galactic Council, stood before the assembled delegates and read a short statement. The United Earth Government has decided to withdraw from all Council activities. Effective immediately, all human citizens are ordered to return to Earth space. All trade agreements are suspended. All military cooperation is ended. Earth will no longer participate in galactic affairs. The Council chamber erupted in confusion. 12 species started talking at once. Prelate Voss raised his hands for silence. "Ambassador Okonkwo," he said smoothly, "surely this is an overreaction. The Kepler incident was unfortunate, but 18 million dead is not an incident," Okonkwo said. "It is a betrayal, and we will not forget it." She turned and walked out of the chamber. She did not look back. Within 1 week, every human in Council space had left. Cargo ships abandoned half-loaded deliveries. Workers walked away from jobs they had held for decades. Soldiers packed their bags and went home without a word. The Council tried to stop them. Valorian security forces blocked the docking bays at the main trade station. They demanded that human workers honor their contracts. A human cargo captain named Marcus Webb looked at the Valorian officer blocking his path. He was a large man with scarred hands from years of hard work. He had loaded Valorian luxury goods for 15 years. "Move," Webb said. "You cannot leave." The officer replied, "You have contractual obligations. The Valorian Commerce Ministry. Your Commerce Ministry watched my sister die on Kepler 3. She had 2 children. They died too. Now move, or I will move you." The officer looked into Webb's eyes and saw something that made him step aside. All across Council space, similar scenes played out. Humans were done asking. Humans were done being polite. Humans were going home. By the end of the month, Earth space was sealed. No Council ship was allowed within 10 light-years of human territory. Automated defense stations destroyed any probe or vessel that crossed the border. The Council was puzzled but not worried. Humans were emotional creatures, they told themselves. They would calm down eventually. They would come back. They had no choice. Where else would they go? Months passed, then years. The Council sent diplomatic missions. None returned. They sent spy ships. None returned. They sent messages of friendship and offers of negotiation. Earth never responded. Prelate Voss addressed the Council. On the first anniversary of the human withdrawal, "Our intelligence suggests that humanity is struggling," he said confidently. "They have cut themselves off from galactic trade. Their economy must be suffering. They will return to us within the year, grateful for our forgiveness." The other species nodded and agreed. Humans were useful workers, good soldiers, but they were not sophisticated enough to survive alone. They needed the Council. The second year passed. Then the third. Rumors began to spread. Kreth merchants, who had traded near the human border, reported strange readings, massive energy signatures, huge fleet movements. Something was happening inside human space. The Synths sent their best spy drones. The drones were fast and nearly invisible. They had never been caught before. Not one made it past the border. By the 4th year, the Council was worried. They had expected humanity to come crawling back, desperate for trade and alliance. Instead, they had gotten silence. Total, absolute silence. "What are they doing in there?" asked the Kreth representative at a Council session. "Perhaps they are dying," suggested the Moldari delegate. "Disease or famine. Isolated species often collapse without outside support." Prelate Voss shook his head. Our long-range scans show massive industrial activity. Power signatures beyond anything we have seen before. They are building something. Building what? No one had an answer. In the 5th year, the Council sent a formal delegation under a flag of peace. 12 ships carrying representatives from every Council species. They approached the human border with all weapons powered down and all shields lowered. They transmitted messages of friendship and reconciliation. When they reached the border, a single human ship was waiting for them. It was larger than anything the Council had ever seen. Its hull was black and covered with weapons ports. It made no aggressive moves, but its presence was a message. The Council flagship hailed the human vessel. A face appeared on their screens. Admiral Chen Wei, older now, with gray in her hair and steel in her eyes. "You are not welcome here," she said. "Turn around." The Valorian diplomat on the flagship tried to speak. "Admiral, please. The Council wishes to restore our friendship. We want to discuss. 18 million people died while you discussed," Chen said. "The time for discussion is over. This is your only warning. Do not approach Earth space again, or what?" The diplomat asked. "You will fire on peaceful vessels? The galaxy will condemn you." Chen smiled. It was not a friendly smile. The galaxy watched us die and did nothing. Why would we care about the galaxy's opinion? She ended the transmission. The Council ships floated at the border for an hour, debating what to do. Then they turned and went home. They reported to the Council that humanity had gone mad. They were building war machines. They were preparing for something. But surely they would not attack. Surely they were not that foolish. The Council voted to increase border patrols. They voted to build more defenses. They voted to take the human threat seriously. But they did not truly believe it. Humans were emotional, yes. Angry, certainly. But they were also small and weak compared to the combined might of the Council. They could not possibly challenge 12 species who had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. On the 5th anniversary of the Kepler massacre, the Council was in session. Prelate Voss was giving a speech about economic forecasts when his assistant interrupted him. With a pale face and shaking hands, "Prelate," the assistant said, "we are receiving a transmission." From Earth, the chamber went silent. "Put it through," Voss said. The holographic display flickered. Then it showed a simple image, the flag of United Earth, with 2 words beneath it: "We remember." Nothing else. Just those 2 words. The Council tried to trace the transmission. They failed. They tried to respond. No answer came. They tried to understand what it meant. They would understand soon enough. In human space, Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of her new flagship. It was 10 times the size of her old vessel. Its weapons could crack planets. Its engines could outrun anything in the galaxy. It was called the Remembrance. Around it floated the largest fleet ever assembled in human history. Battleships and carriers and destroyers and cruisers. Thousands of vessels, each one built with 5 years of focused rage and cold determination. "Admiral," Torres said. He was still at her side after all these years. "All fleet groups report ready. We are awaiting your orders." Chen looked at the tactical display. 5 years of preparation. 5 years of building. 5 years of planning the exact route to every Council homeworld. She reached into her pocket and touched the folded drawing she still carried. "The one from the school on Kepler 3, my family loves me. Send the message," she said. "Then plot a course for Valorian space." Torres nodded and transmitted the 2-word message that would be the Council's only warning. "We remember." The fleet began to move across the galaxy. Council species looked up at their skies and wondered what was coming. They had ignored humanity for 5 years. They had assumed the silence meant weakness. They had believed they were safe. They were wrong. In the old Council archives, there were records of humanity's history, their wars and plagues and disasters, their capacity for violence, and their determination to survive. The Council had read these records when humanity first joined. They had dismissed them as primitive. They should have paid more attention. One record stood out above the others. It described something humans called total war. It was a concept other species found disturbing and barbaric. The idea that an entire civilization could focus itself on a single purpose, that factories and farms and schools could all become part of a war machine. that every man and woman and child could contribute to victory. The Council species waged limited wars with professional armies. They negotiated and compromised and accepted draws. Humans did not fight that way. When humans went to war, they committed everything. They burned their own cities before letting enemies take them. They fought until the last soldier and then armed the civilians. They would rather die than surrender, and they held grudges forever. Admiral Chen's fleet crossed into Council space at multiple points simultaneously. There was no attempt at stealth. There was no negotiation. There was only the cold, unstoppable advance of 10,000 human warships. The Council finally understood what the silence had meant. Humanity had not been sulking. Humanity had not been dying. Humanity had been preparing, and now they were ready. The first reports came from the Kreth border stations. Confused, terrified messages that made no sense. Ships everywhere. Thousands. They came out of faster-than-light travel right on top of us. Our weapons cannot lock on. Our shields are failing. They are not responding to. The transmission ended in static. Within 1 hour, every Kreth border station had gone silent. Within 2 hours, the same thing happened on the Moldari frontier. Within 3 hours, Council Command realized that human fleets were advancing on 12 different fronts simultaneously. Prelate Voss stared at the tactical display in the Council War Room. Red dots marked human fleet positions. They were everywhere, moving with a coordination and speed that should have been impossible. How many ships? He asked quietly. His military advisor, a Kreth general named Thane, pulled up the numbers. His face was pale. Conservative estimate, 10,000 capital ships. Possibly more. They are moving too fast for accurate counts. 10,000, Voss repeated. That is impossible. They had 800 ships 5 years ago. They built more. No one can build that many ships in 5 years. Thane shrugged helplessly. Humans can, apparently. The Council emergency session was chaotic. 12 species shouted over each other, demanding answers that no one had. The Valorians wanted to negotiate. The Kreth wanted to fight. The Moldari wanted to run. We must combine our fleets, Voss argued. Together we outnumber them. Our combined strength, our combined fleet is scattered across 1,000 systems. The Kreth representative shouted. It will take weeks to assemble. The humans are moving now. Then we delay them. We fight holding actions while our forces gather. With what? They just destroyed our entire border defense network in 3 hours. The arguing continued. No decisions were made. Meanwhile, the human fleets kept advancing. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the Remembrance and watched the tactical display with cold satisfaction. Everything was going according to plan. 5 years of preparation had produced something beautiful, a fleet that moved as one, with no wasted motion and no hesitation. The Kreth are attempting to form a defensive line at the Vortha system, Torres reported. Approximately 300 ships. Destroy them. Chen said. It was not cruelty. It was mathematics. Every enemy ship destroyed now was one less ship that could threaten human lives later. The Council had shown humanity the truth of the galaxy. There was no friendship, no loyalty, no mercy. There was only power. And now humanity had the power. The Kreth defensive line lasted 47 minutes. Human ships swarmed them from 3 directions, using tactics the Kreth had never seen before. Electronic warfare blinded their sensors. Precision strikes destroyed their command ships first. When the chaos peaked, heavy cruisers moved in and finished the job. 300 Kreth ships became 300 clouds of debris. The news spread across the galaxy at the speed of light. Council species that had never seen human warships suddenly understood why other species had feared them. Human vessels were not elegant or beautiful. They were brutal, efficient killing machines, and there were so many of them. The Moldari homeworld was the first to surrender without a fight. Their government broadcast their submission when human ships were still 2 days away. They offered anything, everything. Just please do not destroy us. Chen's response was simple. We are not here to negotiate. Stay out of our way. The human fleet bypassed Moldari Prime without firing a shot. They had bigger targets. Valeria. The Valorian home fleet was the largest in the Council. 2,000 ships with the best technology that wealth could buy. They had never lost a major battle. They had never faced a real threat. They formed a defensive sphere around their homeworld and waited. Behind them floated their crystal towers and floating cities. 12 billion Valorians watched the sky and prayed to gods they barely believed in. Admiral Voss, a cousin of the prelate, commanded the defense. He was experienced and capable. He had studied human tactics. He believed he was ready. He was wrong. The human fleet arrived in a single massive wave. 2,500 ships against 2,000 Valorians. The numbers were almost even. The Valorians thought they had a chance. They did not understand that numbers meant nothing against determination. Chen opened the battle with a simple command. All ships, attack pattern Kepler. No prisoners. No mercy. Attack pattern Kepler. Named for the 18 million dead. Named for the colonies that the Council had voted to abandon. Every human sailor knew what it meant. Total commitment. Maximum aggression. Victory or death. The Valorian fleet was good. Their ships were fast and their weapons were powerful. In the first hour, they destroyed over 100 human vessels. Admiral Voss began to believe they might actually win. Then the human tactics changed. Groups of human ships began targeting individual Valorian vessels. 5, 6, 7 ships against one. They swarmed like wolves, attacking from every direction at once. The elegant Valorian ships could not track so many enemies. Their shields collapsed under concentrated fire. Their crews died before they understood what was happening. The Valorian fleet began to fragment. Ships fell out of formation, trying to escape the wolf packs. Coordination broke down. Panic spread. Hold formation. Admiral Voss shouted. Maintain discipline. But discipline was hard when you were watching your friends die. 1 by 1, then 10 by 10, then 100 by 100, the Valorian ships died. By the third hour, half the Valorian fleet was gone. By the fifth hour, only scattered survivors remained, fleeing in every direction. Admiral Voss sat on his bridge and watched the end approach. His flagship was surrounded by human vessels. His weapons were disabled. His engines were dead. He had lost. Chen's face appeared on his screen. Your fleet is destroyed, she said calmly. Your homeworld is undefended. Surrender. Voss looked at the human admiral. She was older than him, with the eyes of someone who had seen too much death. He remembered the Kepler vote. He remembered how easy it had seemed at the time to sacrifice a few million humans. They were not important. They were not Valori, and now he understood the cost of that decision. What are your terms? He asked. Unconditional surrender. All military forces will stand down. All weapons will be disabled. You will accept whatever judgment we deliver, and if we refuse, Chen tilted her head slightly, then we will destroy every military installation on your planet, every shipyard, every weapons factory, every defense platform. You will be left completely helpless in a galaxy that still contains the Ravager swarm. Voss thought about this. Without military protection, Valoria would be vulnerable to every threat in the galaxy. Pirates, raiders, the swarm, other species who might see an opportunity. But what choice did he have? I surrender, he said quietly. The words spread across Valoria Prime. We have surrendered. The mighty Valorian fleet is gone. The humans have won. 12 billion Valorians looked up at the sky and saw the black shapes of human warships, filling the darkness. They waited for the destruction to begin. It did not come. Instead, the human ships moved into orbital positions and held station. No weapons fired. No cities burned. The humans simply waited. On the surface, Prelate Voss received a message from Admiral Chen. It was brief. Gather the council. All species. Neutral ground. You have 3 days. Voss tried to respond, to ask questions, to negotiate. Chen did not reply. The human fleet remained in position, a silent reminder of what they could do if they chose. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out. The Kreth surrendered when human ships reached their homeworld. The Sinnoth surrendered. The Moldari had already surrendered. One by one, every council species submitted. Not because they wanted to, because they had no choice. In 10 days, humanity had defeated the combined military forces of the Galactic Council. 10,000 years of council dominance ended in less than 2 weeks, but Chen was not finished. The military victory was only the beginning. Now came the harder part, ensuring that humanity would never be betrayed again. She looked at the tactical display showing human ships in orbit around every Council homeworld. 12 species, 12 billion Valorians, hundreds of billions of sentients across all worlds, all of them now at humanity's mercy. Torres stood beside her, waiting for orders. Send messages to all fleet groups, Chen said. Phase 2 begins at dawn, Admiral, Torres said carefully. What exactly is Phase 2? Chen turned to look at him. Her eyes were hard, but not cruel. She was not a monster. She was a soldier who had watched 18 million of her people die while the galaxy did nothing. She carried a child's drawing in her pocket as a reminder of what that meant. Phase 2 is consequences, she said. The Council took everything from us and paid nothing. That ends now. They will learn what it costs to betray humanity, and after they learn, Chen was quiet for a moment. Then we will show them something they never expected. Something they do not deserve. What is that? She almost smiled. Mercy. But first, they must understand what mercy means. They must understand that we could destroy them, and we choose not to. Otherwise, they will learn nothing. Torres nodded slowly. He understood. Mercy without power was weakness. But mercy with power, mercy offered by someone who could easily choose vengeance. That was something else entirely. That was strength. The galaxy was about to learn the difference. The dawn came to Valoria Prime, as it always did, with the twin suns rising over the crystal towers of the capital city. But this dawn was different. This dawn, human ships hung in the sky like dark clouds, blocking out the stars. Prelate Voss had not slept. He had spent the night reading reports from across the galaxy. Every Council species had surrendered. Every fleet had been destroyed or disabled. In less than 2 weeks, humanity had achieved what no species in 10,000 years had managed: complete military dominance of the Galactic Council. His assistant entered the chamber with more reports. Prelate, the other Council leaders are ready for the emergency session. Admiral Chen's deadline is in 3 hours. Voss nodded warily. What do we know about human intentions? Nothing concrete. They have disabled our military communications. We cannot coordinate with other species. Each homeworld is isolated, surrounded by human ships, but they have not attacked civilians. No bombardment, no ground invasion. They are simply there, watching. Voss found this more frightening than open warfare. He could understand anger. He could understand revenge. But this cold, patient waiting was something else. It spoke of planning, of purpose, of consequences carefully designed. The Council session took place in a virtual space. Since no one could travel, 12 holographic leaders faced each other, all of them tired, all of them afraid. They want something, the Kreth representative said. This is not simple revenge. If they wanted us dead, we would be dead. Perhaps they want our worlds, the Moldari suggested. Colonization. They have always been desperate for living space. Then why not simply take them? They have the power. No one had an answer. At the appointed hour, Admiral Chen's image appeared in the virtual chamber. She looked calm and rested, which somehow made her more intimidating. Behind her, the bridge of the Remembrance was visible. Crew members working quietly at their stations. Thank you for gathering, she said. There was no anger in her voice, no hatred, just cold professionalism. I will be brief. You have questions. I have answers. Prelate Voss spoke first. Admiral Chen, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I wish to. There is no Galactic Council. Chen interrupted. As of this moment, the Council is dissolved. You have no authority. You have no power. You have only what we choose to give you: silence. The Council leaders looked at each other in shock. You cannot simply dissolve the Council. The Synth representative protested. We have governed this galaxy for 10,000 years. We have laws, treaties, traditions. You had those things, Chen agreed. Then you voted to let 18 million of my people die. Your laws and treaties and traditions meant nothing when it was human suffering. Why should they mean anything now? No one could answer. Chen continued. Here is what will happen. Within the next 72 hours, my forces will destroy every military installation on every Council homeworld, every shipyard, every weapons factory, every orbital defense platform, every military academy. Everything that could be used to threaten humanity will be eliminated. You cannot. Voss cried. That would leave us defenseless. The Ravager swarm is still out there. Pirates and raiders. Other threats. Without military protection, you will die, Chen said calmly. Yes, we know. That is the consequence of betrayal. You chose to leave us defenseless when the swarm came for our colonies. Now you will understand how that feels. The council leaders erupted in protests and pleas. They begged for mercy. They promised anything. They reminded Chen that billions of innocent civilians would suffer. If the council was left undefended, Chen let them talk. When they finally quieted, she spoke again. I am not finished. I said we would destroy your military capability. I did not say we would abandon you to the swarm. Hope flickered in the eyes of the council leaders. Humanity will offer protection to any species that requests it. We will defend you against the swarm, against raiders, against all external threats. But there will be conditions. What conditions? Voss asked carefully. First, the new alliance will be led by humanity. We will hold permanent command authority over all joint military operations. You will never again vote on whether to defend human lives. Second, you will provide resources for the reconstruction of the Kepler colonies. New cities will be built. New populations will be settled. You will pay for this. Third, any species that abuses or exploits another member of the alliance will face immediate consequences. The days of the strong preying on the weak are over. And finally, you will remember. Every year, on the anniversary of the Kepler massacre, every council species will hold a memorial. You will teach your children what happened. You will never forget what betrayal costs. The conditions were harsh, but not impossible. The council leaders began to see a path forward. But the Valorian representative, a young politician who had replaced Prelate Voss's cousin after the fleet's destruction, raised an objection. These terms are humiliating, he said. The Valorian people are proud. We cannot accept. Then do not accept, Chen said. You are free to refuse. We will destroy your military infrastructure and leave. You can face the galaxy alone. You would abandon billions of people to die. Chen's expression did not change. You abandoned 18 million humans to die. You watched our colonies burn and called it not strategically significant. Now you ask if we would do the same to you. She paused. The difference is, we are giving you a choice. You gave us nothing. The chamber fell silent again. The Valorian representative had no response. Over the next 3 days, human forces carried out the destruction of council military infrastructure. They were efficient and thorough. Shipyards that had taken centuries to build were reduced to rubble in hours. Weapons factories were demolished. Defense platforms were shot out of the sky. But not a single civilian was harmed. Human soldiers landed on council worlds to oversee the destruction. And they were disciplined and professional. They did not loot. They did not abuse. They did their job and left. This confused the council species more than anything else. They had expected savagery. They had expected revenge. Instead, they got cold efficiency. The humans were not angry. They were not emotional. They were simply removing a threat and building a new order. When the destruction was complete, each council species had to make a choice. Accept humanity's terms and receive protection, or refuse and face the galaxy alone. One by one, they accepted. The Kreth were first. They had always respected strength, and humanity had proven its strength beyond any doubt. They signed the new alliance agreement and immediately began contributing resources. To the Kepler reconstruction, the Moldari followed. They were a practical species who understood when they were beaten. Better to accept unfavorable terms than to die. The Synth accepted. The lesser species accepted. Even the proud Valorians, after 3 days of internal debate, finally agreed. All except one. The Threll were a small species, not powerful or wealthy, but stubborn. Their representative announced that they would not bow to human domination. They would rather die free than live as servants. Chen did not argue. She simply withdrew all human ships from Threll space and left. 3 months later, the Ravager swarm found the Threll homeworld. Without military protection, they lasted 6 days. Their entire species was consumed. 12 billion Threll ceased to exist. The galaxy learned a lesson from the Threll. Humanity was not bluffing. They were not making idle threats. They were offering protection in exchange for loyalty. and the alternative was extinction. The new alliance formed quickly after that. Human ships patrolled Council space, now called Alliance space. Human admirals coordinated joint defense forces. Human diplomats settled disputes that would once have required decades of Council debate. It was not perfect. Many species resented human dominance. Many longed for the old days when the Council ruled and humans were just useful workers. Some even began to plot rebellion, but those plots never went far. Human intelligence was everywhere. Human ships could appear anywhere without warning, and everyone remembered what had happened to the Thrall. Admiral Chen stepped down from military command after the alliance was established. She said she was tired. She said younger officers should lead the new order. The truth was more complicated. Chen had done what was necessary. She had defeated the Council and built a new system that would protect humanity forever. But she had also destroyed trillions of credits worth of infrastructure and left billions of people terrified. She was not sure if she was a hero or a villain. Perhaps she was both. On her last day in uniform, she visited a new memorial that had been built on Earth. It stood in the center of the capital, a massive wall of black stone with 18 million names carved into it. The victims of the Kepler massacre, remembered forever. She stood before the wall and took the folded drawing from her pocket, the one from the school on Kepler 3. She had carried it for 6 years. Through silence and war and victory. My family loves me. She placed the drawing at the base of the wall, among the flowers and candles that mourners had left. Then she stepped back and saluted. I kept my promise, she said quietly. I made them remember. I made them pay. And I made sure it can never happen again. The wind blew across the memorial plaza, carrying the smell of flowers. Chen stood there for a long time, thinking about the dead and the living and the future she had built. It was not a perfect future, but it was a safe one. Humanity would never again be abandoned. Humanity would never. 20 years had passed since the fall of the Galactic Council. 20 years since humanity had risen from betrayal to dominance. 20 years since the galaxy had learned to fear the species it once dismissed as insignificant. The Galactic Alliance now stretched across 1,000 star systems. Human ships patrolled its borders. Human admirals commanded its fleets. Human diplomats settled its disputes. The old Council species still existed, still wealthy, still numerous, but they no longer ruled. Commander Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of the Alliance flagship New Dawn and watched the stars. She was the daughter of Admiral Chen Wei, who had retired to Earth years ago. Sarah had grown up hearing stories of the Kepler massacre, of the betrayal, of the war that followed. Now she served in the fleet her mother had built. Commander, her aide said, approaching with a datapad, we have received a distress signal from the Valorian colony on Thesa Prime. Ravager swarm activity in the system. Sarah took the datapad and reviewed the data. The swarm had never stopped being a threat. Every few years, new hive fleets emerged from the galactic rim and began their endless hunger. The Alliance had contained them so far, but it required constant vigilance. How many Valorians on Thesa Prime? She asked. Approximately 3 million. Mostly agricultural workers. They have no military capability. In the old days, the Council would have debated for weeks before sending help. They would have calculated the economic value of the colony. They would have weighed the cost of ships against the benefit of saving lives, and they might have decided that 3 million Valorians were not strategically significant enough to save. Sarah did not debate. Set course for Thesa Prime. All ships, full combat readiness. We protect Alliance citizens. The fleet jumped to faster-than-light travel. 700 human and allied ships, moving as one to defend people who had once been their enemies. They arrived at Thesa Prime to find the swarm already attacking. Bioships filled the sky above the colony. Acid rain was falling on the outer settlements. Screaming Valorians were running for the emergency shelters, praying that someone would save them. Someone did. The Alliance fleet tore into the swarm with practiced efficiency. Human ships formed the core of the attack, their weapons systems carving paths through the bioships. Valorian and Kreth vessels fought alongside them, no longer enemies but allies. The battle lasted for hours. When it was over, the swarm fleet was destroyed and Thesa Prime was safe. 3 million Valorians emerged from their shelters. and looked up at the sky filled with Alliance ships. Sarah landed on the colony to assess the damage and coordinate relief efforts. The Valorian governor, an elderly woman named Prella Thys, greeted her with tears in her eyes. "You came," she said. "You actually came. We sent the distress signal, and you came immediately." Sarah was confused by the woman's emotion. "Of course we came. The Alliance protects its members. That is the agreement. I know the agreement," Thys said. "But I remember the old days. I remember the council. They would have discussed our fate for weeks while we died. They would have calculated our value in economic terms. They might have decided we were not worth saving." She took Sarah's hands in hers. "You are humans. We left your people to die once. We voted to abandon your colonies. We watched 18 million of your people perish and did nothing. And yet, when we called for help, you came without hesitation." Sarah understood now. The Valorians had expected betrayal because that was what they knew. They had spent 10,000 years in a galaxy where the strong exploited the weak, and no one helped anyone without a profit motive. They could not quite believe that humanity was different. "We are not the council," Sarah said gently. "We do not abandon people. We do not calculate the value of lives. When Alliance citizens are in danger, we come. Always." "Why?" Thys asked. "After everything we did to you, why would you save us?" Sarah thought about her mother, about the stories of the Kepler massacre, about the child's drawing that still hung in their family home, framed and protected. A reminder of what had been lost. "Because we remember," she said. "We remember what it felt like to be abandoned. We remember the 18 million who died because no one would help them. And we decided that no one in the Alliance would ever feel that way again. Not even those who once betrayed us." Thys was silent for a long moment. Then she bowed her head. "We do not deserve you," she said quietly. "Perhaps not," Sarah agreed. "But that is not the point. The point is to be better than what came before. The old council ruled through fear and greed. The Alliance leads through protection and trust. We are trying to build something new, something that will last." The relief efforts took several weeks. Human engineers helped rebuild the damaged settlements. Human medical teams treated the wounded. Valorian and human workers labored side by side, repairing what the swarm had destroyed. And slowly, something changed. The Valorians of Thesa Prime had grown up hearing stories about humanity's vengeance. They had been taught to fear the species that had humbled their ancestors. But now they saw humans working to save them, risking their lives to protect strangers, treating Valorians with respect and kindness. It was not what they had expected. A young Valorian girl, no more than 10 years old, approached Sarah one evening. She was shy and nervous, clutching a small gift in her hands. "Commander Chen," she said quietly, "I made this for you, to say thank you." Sarah knelt down to the girl's level and accepted the gift. It was a drawing, done in bright colors on rough paper. It showed human and Valorian ships flying together against a background of stars. Underneath, in careful handwriting, the girl had written, "The Alliance protects." Sarah stared at the drawing. For a moment, she could not speak. "What is your name?" she finally asked. "Pella, like my grandmother." "Pella, this is beautiful. May I keep it?" The girl nodded eagerly. Sarah carefully folded the drawing and placed it in her pocket, close to her heart. 20 years ago, her mother had found a drawing in a ruined school on Kepler 3, a child's picture of their family. With the words, "My family loves me," that child had died in the swarm attack, along with 18 million others. Now another child had given Sarah another drawing. But this child was alive. This child had a future, because humanity had chosen to protect, rather than abandon. That night, Sarah called her mother on Earth. Admiral Chenwei was old now, her hair white and her movements slow, but her eyes were still sharp. "I received a gift today," Sarah said, and showed her the drawing. Chen studied it for a long moment. Then she smiled a real smile, something she rarely did these days. "The Alliance protects," she read. "I like that. We saved them, Mother. 3 million Valorians, the same species that voted to let our colonies die. We saved them, and they are grateful. A little girl made me this picture." Chen was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was thick with emotion. "That is why we did it, Sarah. Not for revenge, not for power. We fought so that one day Children would not have to die because adults were too selfish to save them. We built the alliance so that no one would ever again be abandoned. The Valorians are starting to understand, Sarah said. They expected us to be cruel. They expected us to treat them the way the council treated us. When we showed them kindness instead, it confused them. But now they are beginning to trust. Trust takes time, Chen said. The council built a galaxy based on fear and exploitation. We are trying to build something different. It will not happen overnight. But every time we save someone, every time we show mercy instead of vengeance, we prove that a better galaxy is possible. Sarah nodded. I understand now why you spared them. After everything they did, you could have destroyed the council completely. You could have made them slaves. You could have treated them exactly as they treated us. But you chose mercy. Mercy was the harder choice, Chen admitted. Many people wanted vengeance. Many still do. But vengeance only creates more vengeance. The cycle never ends. Mercy breaks the cycle. Mercy builds something new. Do you regret it? Any of it? Chen thought about this for a long time. I regret the deaths, she said finally. Theirs and ours. I regret that it was necessary at all. But I do not regret the outcome. The galaxy is safer now than it has ever been. Alliance citizens are protected. The swarm is contained. And slowly, species that were once enemies are becoming friends. She looked at the drawing Sarah had shown her. Keep that picture, Sarah. Carry it with you always. Let it remind you why we fight. I will, after the call ended. Sarah stood at the observation window and watched the stars. Somewhere out there, new threats were emerging. The swarm would attack again. Pirates would raid shipping lanes. Disputes would arise between species that still did not fully trust each other. But the Alliance would handle it. Human ships would respond. Lives would be saved. She took out Pella's drawing and looked at it again. Human and Valorian ships flying together. The Alliance protects. Her mother had carried a drawing for 30 years. A reminder of everything humanity had lost. Now Sarah would carry one too. A reminder of everything humanity had built. The old galaxy was gone. The council that had betrayed humanity was nothing but history. In its place stood something new, an alliance built on protection rather than exploitation, on trust.